Everyone has a bright light inside of them that deserves to be seen by the world. That's why it's time to shine the light on the extraordinary who are accomplishing phenomenal things. This is the Shine Out Loud Show with Lillian Ogbogo.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever in the world you are, and welcome to another special episode of the Shine Out Loud Show. Now, yes, it's me, Lillian, and I have another incredible guest on the show today. This woman is not just a mom, she's an author, a STEM tech woman, and she is here to discuss something that she says is not widely talked about, and that is the balancing act and juggling that is required to manage motherhood and a career and a life without losing your sense of self. So join me and welcome my incredible guest, Folakemi Sebiotimo, on the show. And yes, ladies and gents, it's going to be a fun show. Hey, Folakemi.
Hi, Lillian.
How are you?
Hello, everyone. I'm actually well now because I had the next door. They were doing this, renovation work, and it's been so noisy.
Oh,
but
Lord.
Guess what? They just thought to end it in the last hour. So I'm just so happy that this is happening.
Don't you just
thank
love
you for having me?
Oh, you're welcome. Don't you just love when a plan comes together and they stop just on time?
I know. I just feel incredible that, this is happening because I said, and now I go saying, oh dear, what's going to happen? Well, I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for, your show is amazing and you're doing such a great job on your show. So just keep it up.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. So, your check is in the post. Don't worry, I'll send that to you.
Yay! My kids will be happy about that. So you can get some more toys for Christmas.
Okay, so let's get down to business. What inspired the name Peacocks Can Fly?
So, I don't know where to start from. So my lifestyle blog, Peacocks Can Fly, actually used to be called the Not Just a Mom, blog.
Okay.
In 2013 when I started the blog, and that was around the time I just had my first son. That was kind of what inspired me to start, blogging about motherhood, parenting, lifestyle, and things like that. But over the years, I found that actually I was even connecting with, future moms or even single women as well. And it was very clear that I just didn't want to fully box the name, Not Just a Mom, as much as motherhood is something that I speak to me. And at that point, I was actually struggling to get the domain name I also wanted for the Not Just a Mom. So I just thought of a more creative name. And that day I was watching Discovery Channel on Sky. And then there was this episode about peacocks, and they were talking about how peacocks are these incredible birds, that they're so large, they've got, 6-7 feet worth of, wings. You don't expect them to fly. But guess what? Peacocks, they actually do fly.
Yes.
And that's something that resonated with me because when you become a mom, you feel like people kind of expect that, okay, you might struggle with your career, you might struggle with so many aspects, but then you find out that actually you might struggle, but then you can still, make a way or find a path that kind of, suits that season you are in your life. So I think that name just stemmed from, my experiences at the time. I'm being conscious of the fact that I still want to stand there, even though I'm a mom now, even though I'm this, this new version of myself, it's quite clear that I still didn't want to lose who that lady Folakemi was prior to becoming a wife, a mom, and all this other, aspect of my life as it stands today.
Okay, and that's actually very, very powerful because it wasn't just about, you said, well, I'm still a person, I'm mom, but I'm still a whole person. And I think that in itself is a big conversation because especially in the, should we say, the African community, when we start having to label women, once they become mothers, it's almost like they lose their identity and sense of self. because I have people who still come up to my mother and go, "Oh, Mama Chantel, Mama Tony." There are people. No, seriously, I have friends that don't know what my mom's name is. They just know her as Mama somebody, and it's like, my mother has a name, right?
She does have the name. She's actually a real person. She's got blood flowing through her veins as well.
And I understand that. But, when we look at it, because you actually have kids growing up, and this is going to display my age now. Back in the day when you ask a kid, what's your mother's name? Oh, Mama. You're like, nah, dude,
Mom.
That's not your mother's name. That's your mom's title.
But it's so funny because my son is almost 6, and I remember when someone asked him, "What is your mommy's name?" the first time. He actually, because my husband calls me a nickname,
right.
Flaky. That's what he normally calls me. So, but he actually didn't know my real name, and he was probably 3 at the time. And he was like, "Mommy," I was like, "No." It was like, "Flaky," I was like, "No." Like, he actually didn't know my name because he was just, used to just mommy, mom, mama. And that was just the title he had labeled me. Mm-hmm. So I really, that really resonates with me as well.
And this is the thing. So let's unpack Folakemi. So Folakemi, you are a STEM woman because you have spent the last 12 years in the tech industry. You've gone from software developer to lead BA analyst for a leading multinational bank. How is it... you've been in that world for such a long time. Have you found a shift in the number of women in that field?
So, I would say when I went to uni, I studied computer science at uni for my first degree.
Right.
It was very clear that the tech industry at that time was really, was quite male dominated. And to a large extent, I think it's still now, even though there's been lots of improvement, there's been several activities to kind of promote more women, more young girls into the STEM profession.
Yes.
But it's very clear that it's still a male-dominated environment. And when I did my master's in information system, we're just 4 girls on the course as well. And there were like 40 guys at that time when I was studying. Mm-hmm. But one thing that was even clear was when I started my career as a software engineer, I was always the only female software developer. So the company I first worked for in Sheffield, the software company, I was the only female developer on my entire team, on my entire project. And then when I joined investment banking as well, it was still the same, situation. I remember having to go to India with my bosses from the US, from the UK, and I was actually the only female as well. So it's very clear that it's still a heavily male-dominated environment. But I think there's been so much advancement in the sense that more women are actually saying that, wow, it's actually quite a lucrative career, and it's not even as hard as they make it seem. I think what kind of puts women off is when they see like those roles, like the job descriptions, they're thinking, okay, no, I can't do that. That is not me. So they kind of say, okay, no, the job looks too hard on paper, but they don't really try to explore what the job entails on a day-to-day basis. So I'll say that's kind of what, from my experience, puts, women off this career path to a large extent.
Okay. So it sounds like, and I get that because I'm coming from a tech background myself. You're sometimes the only woman in the room, and then you're the only Black woman in the room. And it becomes a whole different conversation, a whole different question. But do you think that one of the reasons why women are afraid to put themselves forward is because they're busy battling the imposter syndrome? They're busy feeling they're not good enough to go for those roles?
I think from my experience, it's actually a combination of different things, because you have women where I've seen, lots of amazing women that I'm, surrounded with, even in the workplace, on a day-to-day basis, through church, through my local community. And we have these women with, like a really like strong degrees, high-flying degrees. They've got the qualifications, they've got the experience, but when it's now time to step up to that next level, what I find is we women in particular, we kind of tend to like second guess ourselves in terms of our abilities, in terms of our skills, our experiences, and we always kind of feel that we're not good enough So we are kind of comparing ourselves to like the cool guys, the smart guys, and we are saying, okay, no, I'm not as good as these people. And what they're even asking for this position, I'm not too sure I tick all the boxes. And one thing from all the books I've read so many books as part of the research that even went into my book. And it's clear that for women, we get to a point where we have to tick every single box in terms of what is expected before we feel that we are ready for that, that position, that next level, or whatever it is we're aspiring for. But for men, as long as they have even something as little as 20 or 30% of the requirement, they feel like, okay, I can learn that. Oh, I know someone that knows that I can learn from. I can shadow that person. And they're kind of a bit more strategic in terms of being able to advance like their career, their profession. But we women, we always feel like we need to have everything, have all the cards in the bag before we are ready to put our hands up. And even when we are even there, like in my case, like I have these degrees, like this is my background. I already do have the qualification, but there are times where I even have the fear, like when I have to go to India to work, to train a new development team. Like I was so, I had so much fear going there to train like a group of like 30, 40, development team. Because I'll say, what do I even think I am to be coming from the UK to train all these people? So I was kind of doubting myself, even though I knew my stuff, I knew my craft. I just didn't believe in myself. I think many women kind of have that lack of self-belief to a large extent. I mean, just from my personal experience.
You know what? You were so right. I mean, the analogy of saying, women want to have all the cats in the bag before going for it. I've known men who don't even have the bag, talk less of a cat. And they're telling you, yeah, I'm going to apply for this job. And you're looking at them going, but dude, you're the village idiot. You're like, and? You're like, and? Clearly they don't know that, so that's not going to stop me. So I think it's we need more women like you actually stand up saying, you know what, you need to put yourself out there, even if it's just one step ahead of where you think you can be, because that's very powerful. And you know, we're looking at your book, we're looking at not just a mom, and for me the name is just really powerful because it says, my identity as wife and mother is not what defines me.
Defines me, exactly.
And again, coming back to the way we define motherhood, define womanhood, especially from the African perspective, I think it's actually saying it's about time women are seen, really seen. Just because they have the ring on the finger, just because they have the babies, that's not the end of who they are. And
yes.
So when, I there's so much I want to talk to you about, because you talk about how after the birth of your first son, you found yourself incapable of speaking up at meetings, that you second guessed everything that came out of your mouth. What happened? How did that happen? Because you went from high flyer to just afraid of yourself.
I'll try to keep this quite short, because I think if I touch on this, we might probably be here for the next 2 hours. But I think the point where I kind of felt that I started losing my confidence was the fact that I spent about a year at home. When after having my first baby, I took a year off, work to look after my son. And, at the time I had, my mother-in-law came to help with, looking after the baby, as we do as part of African culture when you just have a baby. And then 3 months in, they had to go back home, and, I was stuck. Well, I don't like to use the word stuck, but that was the way I felt at the time, in the sense that I had this baby that I had to look after by myself. And why was that? Because at that time, my husband had to work outside London, and his commute was 2.5 hours each way. So It meant he had to leave home at 6 in the morning and go home close to 9 p.m. So it just meant I was with this baby the whole day. And for someone that was, pre-marriage, pre-becoming a mom, I just had so much spare time. I could make plans at the last minute. I could say, today's Thursday, Saturday, I'm off to France to, have a dinner with my friends or stuff like that. But I actually felt stuck at the time, because I really didn't even recognize myself. And I love this baby. And that's one thing And that was where I struggled as well, in the sense that I couldn't really explain to people how I felt. Because even
Right.
after my mom left and I tried to tell my mom, I just felt kind of unhappy. I'm looking after the baby. The baby's doing well. My husband tries to be supportive when he's there, but I just felt really overwhelmed. And what I heard were things like, oh, motherhood is such a blessing. Why can't you take care of just one baby? Like, you're not the first person to have a baby. Those were the kind of things I heard from, people around me. And those were the things that felt really judgmental, in the sense that no one really understands your journey or your struggles. Whatever has worked for people in the past, like our moms, our grandmoms, doesn't necessarily mean it to work kind of in our time. Because if
Right.
you're coming from a place where you're this career woman, where you just feel like the sky was your starting point, and then you have this baby, and you just feel like I can't even go to the store easily. Like, I need to plan like 3 hours before I can, take a baby with me to the shopping mall. So that was one part of it. And then when I finally went back into work, I think it was a mixture of I loved my baby so much. I then had to leave my baby with a nanny, and I just didn't have that trust or confidence in, leaving my baby. As much as, we had done all the background checks, we're happy with the nanny, but I just felt really guilty as well. So I think that kind of knocked my self-confidence, because when I was in the workplace and, I had to, do my job, I
Right.
just felt like I could get called that, oh, something's happened to your son, like he's unwell, or, like the nanny, we can't find the nanny. Like, those were the kind of things that played in my head that really knocked on my confidence and really made me afraid that we'll actually be in a meeting where we're talking about big strategy. Like, at that time, we're moving our development team from India to Romania at the time.
Right.
And we're things where we're really talking about strategy. And all I kept thinking was, okay, I just hope this nanny is feeding my baby. Like, I hope she's feeding him at the right time. Like, those were the things that consumed me. And it was so different, because for me, my focus before becoming a wife and a mom was just my career 100%. And I just gave it my all. I was kind of person that could be in the office till 9 p.m. And I was happy to do that, because I'm just a hardworking person by default. But becoming a mom was kind of a journey I had to, struggle with, to find myself and not lose myself as well. And I think just all the different variables just added to, like, me losing my self-confidence, and me just having this fear that, oh, I took a year off. The workplace has moved on. There are these new technologies that I was still trying to even get my head around as well. So there's just so many things that just added to kind of the fear, the kind of lack of confidence, and even the imposter syndrome as well, feeling like I'm not good enough, even though I'd done all the work in advance and, the company valued me. But I just had so much anxiety about, the whole process.
You know what, Folakemi, you're right. We could talk about this for 2 hours and it won't even be enough, because you've touched on some really powerful topics there. You touched on the guilt you felt. You touched on, the judgment and feeling inadequate. So let's actually unpack a lot of this, because there's one thing. Now, I'm not a mother, but I understand that when people talk about, if you Google, if you go on social media, if you go on Twitter, when people are talking about, motherhood is always, it's a blessing. You find people who are, constantly praying for babies. Oh, once you get married, oh, you'll make 10 babies. Oh, you'll be fine. That becomes
twins and triplets.
I keep telling people, please, please, please do not pray for me to have multiple babies. That's not a blessing.
Me.
That's not a blessing.
That's the way I feel as well.
For some it is,
but for me it is not.
Because you have to know who you are. So, and
you
please,
have to.
And in the same breath, I'm going to say this because this is contradictory. At the same time, when you get multiple babies, they are kind of blessings, because you look at them, go 1, 2, I'm done. Wash your hands. I'm done with this business. But because I can say this as an auntie to gorgeous, delicious little twin boys, but I see the struggle my sister goes through. And one of the things that I look at when people say, it's a blessing, don't worry, you'll be able to take care of them,
you'll be fine.
Exactly, you'll be fine. You're not the first one now.
You're not the first to have a baby, and you won't be the last.
Exactly. And there's that conversation where and you're almost stuck, because that's the word. You're almost stuck because you don't know how to say to these people, because some of them might be those who are closest and dearest to you, please shut up.
Exactly.
You don't know how to tell them, please shut
You
up,
don't
because
know.
it's
You
not
don't know.
helping me. It's and I realize this, and this is because I have friends who are mothers. I have, like I said, my sisters are mothers, and you see
Yes.
it's an individual struggle, and it's an individual
Yes.
challenge. And I think we need to stop talking about motherhood as if it is one thing. It's it's the same kind of situation
No.
for everybody. And then we have to come into that space of where we need to stop talking about motherhood and the pains of motherhood like it's some badge we have to wear. Because I see all these social media posting of, the ever suffering African woman with the pot on the head, the baby on the
No.
back, and,
No.
doing something and being extolled as being the virtuous mother. And you're like, yeah, that's why most of our mothers are unhappy, because they had to
Exactly.
do all of that.
And the point you just touched on, it's just something that bothers me so much. Like, it's almost like as a woman, as a mom, you're kind of being judged. Like, if you're not able to, wear like your motherhood crown in that way of, that suffering, that
The suffering mother.
you losing yourself, you not having a life outside of your kids or your family, like that really is the role model for
Motherhood,
for
yeah.
being for motherhood. I think and that's something that bothers me, that in 2018 there's still people that have that school of thought that if you can decide to go on a girls trip on the weekend,
You're a bad
you'll
mother.
be judged. You're a bad mother. And I've had that because I've been on girls trip probably 3 or 4 now since I've had kids, and it was something I had to make a conscious effort as part of not losing myself. And there'll still be people that will be like, oh, so you left your kid for 4 days with their dad to go on a girls trip. Like, you think that's
Okay.
ridiculous.
Hold on. Let's actually that's a main point there, because that thing, oh, you left them with their dad. I didn't, you didn't leave them with a masked murderer. You left them with their parents. You didn't leave them with some random person.
Competent, who is equally an awesome guy, who is equally capable as myself, or even in some aspect even more capable than me. So I don't really see what the problem is. But we're just in this society where women are just always judged for everything.
Exactly.
You're judged for what you feed your kids, what you don't feed them, how you dress, how you don't dress, whether you lose your post-baby weight or you decide to bounce back within 6 weeks. Whatever you do, you will still be judged, right? Regardless.
It's really nuts. And before people say, oh, it's just the African perspective, I remember, I think recently, for the next what's that show, I'm a Survivor, Get Me Out of Here, they now have Holly Willoughby going to be the co-host alongside Deck, or is it Ant? One of them. And one of them, they look the same. And the newspapers, you should have seen the reports.
The headlines.
The headlines were, oh, she's leaving her children. How are they going to cope? And she's like, I'm leaving my children with their father. Oh my God, the father has to manage with their children. Like, did he not make these babies? Because I don't understand.
and it's just funny because, and just to the point you made, I think it's not just the African society. I think as much as we're in a Western world, there's still, some aspect of this that is still seen that the primary responsibility of a woman, of a mom, is really, nurturing and just being, there, parenting. They feel like a woman has to be the one in charge of that. So when, you're kind of, chasing your career or your business or anything else, it's kind of seen as you're sacrificing your parenting or kind of the future of your kids for your career. And it's still something that even in the Western world, people still see it that way, to be honest. As much as we think that, okay, this 2018, like, people's view should be quite different, but actually not necessarily all cases.
Oh, no. Oh, no. just look at social media, you will see that those views in fact, some days I feel like we're kind of going backwards in certain aspects
Yes,
because
I feel that way too.
we talk about this idea, and you've brought it up twice, that the word sacrifice. And the fact is, I remember there was an article where a woman put up in a blog that says, "I choose not to sacrifice for my kids," and she was slated. She chooses to put herself and the relationship of her partner before her kids, and there was
I think I
like,
read that article.
it was
Yes, I read
bloody.
that.
The response was
I
bloody.
read the article.
So let me ask you this. You actually said something that was important. You said since you've become a mother to two loving little boys, you've managed to have 3 girls trip. So when you came back, were you not a
Yes.
better mom, a better partner, a better focused individual because you were relaxed, you were happier, and you were healthier for it? Did you not feel better and more able to cope?
No,
No.
honestly, no. What I'm just saying is, if you're a mom and you've never managed to have either a night out or a long weekend or a 2 day away, it's something I'll recommend for every mom, to be honest. Because I would say the first time I embarked on this girls trip, so I had this really close colleague of mine. She always goes to this fitness resort somewhere in Spain every year. She's been going there for the last 10 odd years. And when she comes back, she's married, no kids yet. She always has the best tales about how amazing this place is. I mean, I go on family holidays, but after becoming a mom, I didn't even think it was something that you should even consider doing, to go on a trip by yourself with your girlfriends. It was something that I didn't think was possible, to be honest. And then the more she talked about it, and she had gone on the trip with some other of her mom friend, I was like, oh, and the other lady, she's got twin boys as well. And she's even, a black lady like me. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to give this a go once. And then I spoke to my husband, we looked at the dates to ensure it won't clash with, whether it's going to be away for work, and to be sure that we had, appropriate coverage. Because one thing from my family perspective, we always really like one parent, regardless, to always be at home.
Right.
So we've never really had, I think just once when we went on like an anniversary trip, and my mother-in-law was here with the kids. That was, I think, the only time we both, went away. But it was clear that it was possible, as much as in my mind I was thinking this is not possible. But as soon as I broke it down into, okay, so this is the goal. I want to go on this 4-day trip with 5 other girls. They all work, I know 2 of the other girls already. 3 of the other girls are friends to this, my colleague at work. I've met them, through like a birthday dinner for my friend. So I kind of knew everyone. So I kind of broke it down, which is what I do with anything I want to do. I said, okay, these are the dates. My husband is available. This is the cost. It's not even too expensive because we'll share, a room with, one other person. So
Right.
the finances wasn't the problem. My husband was happy with it. Obviously, after I told him what it was about. And then I thought, okay, the kids, the other is in school already. There won't be any impact. And I said, you know what? Go for it. I booked this trip, went away to Spain with the girls. And guess what? We had the most amazing time ever there. And just the thought of flying, on this trip where I didn't have to like carry nappy bags. I didn't have to carry, milk. I didn't have to carry a buggy that you have to collapse through airport security at Gatwick Airport. That alone was like bliss for me. The fact that I had a book, I can't remember what book I read on the first trip, but I was actually able to almost finish that book, which is something I haven't done in such a long time. Like I normally spend a month reading one book, which for me was something I could read a book within 2 days, like pre-baby days. So just all those little things, I was like, wow, this actually feels good. I arrived at this resort in the morning. I was able to, spend that time to do my morning devotion. And the way the resort worked was kind of, they had all these activities like yoga, like you could do like a spa, a massage, you could decide to run, you could do Zumba, but it's kind of up to you to choose what you wanted to do. So I kind of didn't want anything too intense. So I did a few bits and pieces. We had like nice breakfast, brunches, and dinners with the girls. But it was just amazing. And I actually had time to even think about, okay, for my blog, like what are the kind of ideas I want to put in my blog in terms of content, in terms of my career, what's kind of the next step, for
Right.
my career. I had this clear brain where I was able to kind of, come up with new strategies, come up with like action plans for what I wanted to do when I got back. And I picked ideas and where we stayed was so amazing in terms of the decor interior. I was like, oh, I need to repaint my kids' room. So I got all these new ideas for many aspects of my life. And I came back home, I would say, a changed woman because I had so
Wow.
much energy because I had taken part in like some physical activities like yoga, like Pilates. I just had all the energy. Like I came back, I took the next day off. I took the kids. We went on to like different, activity places, did all these great things, planned all this amazing date night with my husband. Like I just came back a changed woman. Honestly, I don't know how else I can explain this better, but I came back a changed woman. And one of the first trip was kind of when the idea for the book kind of came. Because I've always had my blog and I knew I wanted to write the book, but I didn't know what subject. But just having that time away from the noise, I was able to hear myself, I was able to hear God clearly, and I was able to really know what the next step was for me at that time. So if you're always consumed by the daily, overwhelm and struggles and noise, you're actually not able to really progress in many aspects of your life. So that girls trip to me is a lifesaver, and it's something since then I do it every year now, and that I do it every year.
You know what? Sounds like that girls trip was a miracle trip. So, yes, I think we should all put in our diaries space for that girl trip, even if it's once a year. Even if you're married, single, whatever your situation is, it sounds like that was a turning point for you. And
It was.
I'm just so, in awe at how it inspired you to write Not Just a Mom. So in the book, you talk about practical steps. You talk about it being a practical steps to juggling motherhood, work, and life. What is your number one practical step?
That's a question I've been asked quite a few times. I think I keep changing my answer, like because I think when you ask me the question, I'm thinking about okay, what's going on right now in my life as well, and that's one thing with this motherhood journey, like. Everything changes at every point in time. You always have to kind of take a step back to see, okay, what's working, what's not, what do I need to change?
Right.
Do I need more help? Do I need more support? What is great? What is not great? So I think for me right now, it's really just kind of learning when and knowing when to say no, because that's something that I kind of struggled with in the past in the sense that people kind of have all these expectations of what you should do. Like you have all these, play dates, all these kids parties you just feel like your child will be the only one missing out when they don't go. But you're thinking, okay, like I can't do this every single Saturday. Or you have cases where your boss expects you to, deliver like this huge requirements document within 48 hours. And you're saying, okay, as much as previously I might be able to stay up for 2 nights in a row to do this work, but this stage I'm at in life just means I probably might need 2 extra days to complete that piece of work. Mm-hmm. So it's just knowing what your limits are, accepting your limits, and just being able to communicate to the right people about what help and support you need.
And that's important because it's almost like you're saying the one thing that you need to do is know how to set boundaries.
Yes. Exactly.
And this is not just for motherhood, and this is not just for people who are mothers. I think every woman, the one thing that we need to learn is how to set firm boundaries, and that no is a complete sentence. I don't have to justify my no. It's just no.
No, yeah.
No.
and one thing with but it's true. But one thing with boundaries is people think boundaries actually keep other people out. They actually fence you in. And that's something in my book. You might think that, okay, you're not this nice person that, you have to say no to things. But you have to think about your well-being. You have to think about your family values. You have to think about what stage you are, So those boundaries, and not just boundaries, healthy boundaries as well. And I think for me, one thing I've kind of learned as well with the boundaries is most times, even when I set boundaries, like the other party probably might not realize I'm setting a boundary. And I think that's kind of the next step that I think women in general need to get to, where they're kind of saying no, but you still make the other party feel great about you saying no.
Yes.
You see? So, and that's something I covered in my book as well.
Okay. So, and this is the point. You talk about this constantly. You talk about, the conversation around motherhood, work, and life. And do you think that there's need to be more honest conversations about balancing motherhood? We need to stop with the, it's a blessing conversation and it's so amazing conversation. And then you have those people who are, showing you motherhood while they're juggling 40 million things at the same time and making it look like life is just really easy. And, do you think we need more honest conversations?
Yes. I think that's one thing that I think this book touched on a lot, in the sense that motherhood is not, a bed of roses. Like, there's a section around like things, I wish I knew before I became a mom. Like you're responsible for these children for the rest of your life. Even after they get married, you probably still feel responsible for them. And no one talks about how expensive it is to raise children. Like, whichever part of the world you are, like, I spend close to 1,200 on just, nursery fees for my younger son at the moment. And it's just not something that you kind of go into with your eyes, shut, like blindly. Something you have to understand that it's a huge commitment.
Yeah.
It's something that just means you probably will not be able to sleep with your two eyes closed, because I still wake up at night to check my boys, at night, to be sure they're fine. My husband does the same. So everyone has to understand that it's so much struggle. Like, my younger son is close to 3 and he still chose the most terrible tantrum.
Oh, wow.
The other day we're somewhere at the supermarket and he just wanted Haribos, and I was like, no, you can't have sweet. And he just got so upset. And these are things people don't tell you. And for me, like, I just like peace and quiet. That's always been me before I got married. But being in a place where constantly the boys are jumping, they can break your iPad, like anything can just happen. It's just something that I feel people have to be informed before they go into. As much as everyone says, it's a blessing to be a mom. Like, there are people out there that have tried to have kids for 10 years, 15 years, they don't have kids. So you should be happy you're a mom. Actually, no, like, I'm happy I'm a mom, but it's something I feel everyone has to go into to kind of know what to expect, and not go in thinking it's just going to be like pure a walk in the park or a bed of roses, because actually it's not. It's so hard. It's just, I think it's one of the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, like being a mom. It's the biggest blessing to feel like, okay, you're responsible and you're looking after them. And when you see them thriving, they're progressing in school, you're seeing things like sibling love develop and things like that. That makes it real, and you're able to see the result of your parenting and things like that. But on the other hand, it's so hard.
I had another mom on the show recently, and she said one of the things that nobody ever told her is that children do the oddest thing. And her daughter used to go into the bathroom with her when she's going to the bathroom, and just basically sit there like she's watching a play, and she's like, this is really bizarre. How do I go to the bathroom with another person in the bathroom? And her daughter's there having a big conversation like it's okay. Or I've read articles.
There are just too many things. Like, I think if I put like a book of like the silliest thing, like either kids do or just the way kids behave, like some days I'm just laughing, Like my little son will kind of come to me and just say, like, Mommy, can you be quiet now? And that's because I've told him maybe be quiet. And like, they just see everything you do and they can just replay everything, to you. Like the other day, pretty much took out all the toilet paper and just put it down the toilet. I'm just wondering, like, who does that? Like, why would someone in their right senses do that? Well, it's children those are the things that you're like, that's not even normal for you to like bring out all the pans and the pots and just put it out there. Like, why would you want to do that?
It's fascinating. I mean, or the one that I find is really interesting is when they will do things and then they will look at you and they will pause, and then next thing they're giving you hugs because they know they've done something they shouldn't do, and they know how to bribe you. I'm like,
Yes,
This
they're
is
just
just
the
unfair.
smartest.
This is
And I always feel
unfair.
like I always say to my husband, these kids, they know how to press your buttons. They know what they're doing,
Oh
you
yeah.
know. Like my son the other day just got these tea bags. I'm not sure where he found it. He opened up all these tea bags, like, and then it was all over the place. And I was going to get up, so he just came and says, "Mommy, cuddle." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "You're going to get told of. You're going into your room for the next half an hour." And then it goes, "Mommy, cuddle." And then I just, melted, and I just couldn't execute, his discipline anymore.
Bribery
Because he
and
bribed me.
corruption at play. Serious full on bribery and corruption. Okay. And that's the thing. So motherhood it's a varied situation, and I think you're right. There's a need for a more honest and really open, frank conversation. And especially the conversation which we do not have a lot of in the Black community is the one
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
depression. I think there needs to be more conversations about the depression that is felt after
Yes.
you go through motherhood. I don't know if you
Yes.
experienced any of it.
Yes, no idea, and it's in my book as well. I mean, it's a topic that is really close to my heart because after I had my first son, as I said, I just felt overwhelmed, and I think it was from different things. And if you, without giving too much away for those who have not read my book, when I had my first son, I ended up having like an emergency C-section,
Right.
which given for me that had like the picture perfect pregnancy. I did all the pregnancy yoga, I did all the walks, but I ended up the baby's heartbeat was dropping, and eventually I had an emergency C-section. So I think that was kind of what triggered my kind of depression, in the sense that when the baby came, I just had so much pain that I felt like I couldn't bond with the baby as much. Breastfeeding was so painful for me. I had planned that I was going to breastfeed exclusively. I tried for 2 months. There was so much struggle. And then by 3 months, I just thought, no, I couldn't continue with, breastfeeding exclusively. So
Right.
it just kind of kept knocking on my, okay, are you this great mom that you plan to be? Actually, you're not, because you're still in so much pain because they sign you off from kind of the GP, the doctors, after 6 weeks, because they expect every mom should be fine from the pain from the operation after 6 weeks. But for me to climb up the stairs, I still had pain, and I just couldn't, because when I kept saying it, it was like, but that's not normal. How come you're still in so much pain?
Right.
6 weeks after a C-section. So it was those little things that just felt like that just made that kind of kept eating into me, feeling, oh, you're not good enough, you're not a great mom, you can't even look after your baby by yourself, you can't really bend properly to give your baby a proper bath. Those were the things that just made me kind of feel really down. Like at some point when they brought the baby to me to feed, I had this anxiety, so I thought it was postnatal blues, which is kind of normal. When you have a baby, you have the blues, but mine just extended. Like it was kind of even 8 months after I had the baby, I still felt low. Obviously, some days were better than some. The days I was a bit more proactive to take the baby out and do some nice stuff. But there were some days where I just didn't want to have a bath. Like I was in bed with the baby till maybe 2 in the afternoon, and I just don't feel like doing anything, right? And those are the kind of triggers that people kind of don't like to talk about, that you don't feel good, you don't want to dress up, you don't want to eat, you lose your appetite. Like I didn't feel like eating. I had to breastfeed the baby, but I had lots of appetite. I didn't have the strength I had previously. So
Right.
those were the signs for me that I didn't know at that time that was kind of a form of postnatal depression. It was much later when I went back into work and I spoke to like a workplace therapy. And when they kind of asked about how I felt then, and I told them the symptoms, they're like, that clearly was postnatal depression. And it's something that we don't like to talk about because we feel like, oh, a Black woman should be strong. The Black woman, she just bear all the burden like easily, without complaining, without that.
Yeah,
So it
no.
was, so that was, and it was hard for me because I didn't feel there was really one single person. My sister was quite supportive, and my cousin, one or two friends, but I couldn't really open up to them to say this is how I felt. Like
Right.
I didn't feel great about myself. Like I looked at my tummy, the stretch marks, and as much as everyone's like, oh, you've got a great body, but for me, that I normally did like marathons and things like that. for me, like that was my own standard. So everyone's standard for themselves is different, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I just felt crappy. Like I didn't have energy. I just didn't feel like socializing. Like all the play dates, so moms tried to arrange with me. I just kept canceling and stuff like that. So it was very clear that that just wasn't me because I normally like to socialize with people as much as I'm an introvert, but I like when I make plans and I'm able to, okay, next week they're going to do this. Like I'm that kind of person. But at that point in time, I just wasn't interested in all that. I just feel like we as a society, as a couple, we need to talk more about these things. We need to look at the signs. Like when we see our friends, our sisters, our colleagues, people that are around that, we need to look for these signs in them. So if someone that is normally a cheerful person is just doesn't seem to have the motivation, we should try to explore and just try to be our sister's keeper. I think that will go a long way to kind of, help and deal with it, cope with postnatal depression in African community, and just stop the judgment as well.
Yes. You know what? You've said a mouthful, and I think that key line, we have to be our sister's keeper and really ask the questions and make room to listen without being judgmental. I think that's really, really core. Now, you talk about, part of Peacocks Can Fly is, for people, for moms, and young people to live a purpose-driven life. What is a purpose-driven life in your book?
So for me, I think a purpose-driven life is just you doing something that you were made to do. That because for me, my background, like my faith is Christianity, and that's something that I'm not able to shy away from, because when I turn left, right, center, it still comes down to my faith. So I'm of this school of thought that when God created every human being, God created every human being with a purpose, with a vision, with a set of things and goals and accomplishment that they are meant to either aspire to or to work towards. So to live a purpose-driven life is really to find out what that thing is, what that unique selling point is about you, whether in your career, whether it's a business, whether it's even being a single woman, whether it's being a wife or whatever it is, and just to really make that at the core of you, of your person, to really work towards setting out to do what you're meant to do. Because I just feel like if you're trying to either walk in someone's shadow or to copy what someone else is doing, you can't really live the life that is meant for you. So The first step is to identify what it is, what your passions are, what your talents are, because I believe God created every individual with a unique set of talent. Like for you, you're great at what you're doing here, at in your show, in your career, you're great at that. So imagine you trying to maybe be a doctor, to be something else that you are not called to do. You might end up struggling. But I can see your passion for what you're doing. So it's all around passion. You finding out what it is, what excites you, or what inspires you. Like for me, I love writing a lot. Even before I became a mom, I've always loved writing. I've always kept journals. I've always had diaries. So for me, writing this book is not really unusual for me. And as my day-to-day job as a business analyst, I've written 200 pages requirement document. So writing is not something that is impossible for me, but for some other people, they can only be on TV. For some, they can they can only work on construction sites. So you just have to find what it is that your talent is. And one mistake people make, everyone thinks that you have to be your own boss for you to say you're living a purpose-driven life. But actually, I don't agree with that. I think regardless of where you are, you might actually be you might have like an assistant, really, and that helps you on your show, maybe with your production and stuff. And that could be that person's purpose that God has created. For these 3 years, your role is to support Lillian at what she's doing with this Shine Out Loud show. And if that person is not doing what they're meant to do, they may try other things and they might struggle, right? So I just feel like at every stage in life, there's a direction, there's a path for everyone. And you have to be kind of vigilant, and you have to look at clues, like sometimes people might prompt you that, oh, Lillian, you're actually great at hosting, or you're great at this. And you have to listen to those signs if you're not a Christian, like for me, I listen to God and I hear from God clear, and God says, okay, this is the next thing for you. This is the topic I want you to focus on. But if you're not a religious person, you have to look more, in your environment and in
Yeah.
things that you're attracted to really figure out what you're good at. It's really what you're good at. To me, that's really your purpose. What you're passionate about, what excites you, what makes you happy. Because I feel like even in your career, like I love teaching people in my job. I love giving presentations. I love when I give this presentation to like my stakeholders and they're like, wow, like that's, that was it for me. So
Yes.
I have that satisfaction with that as well. So that clearly, to live in my career, I feel like I'm living my purpose even in my career as well. So it doesn't have to be one thing, particularly for we that we are multi-passionate women, because I can tell you're a multi-passionate woman. So you can have like many, it doesn't have to be one single thing. It doesn't have to be just motherhood. It doesn't have to be just being in a relationship or a single woman or a mom or it could be just bits of everything. And that's just what makes you into this super incredible, human being that God created, really. That's where I see it.
You know what? I think you have really defined what purpose driven is, and I thank you for sharing that, and thank you for the lovely things you said about me. So okay, let's look at everything that you do. You also, with the book, you have the lifestyle blog. You also host retreats for women. Are these just for mothers?
Well, no. So I host workshops, like career workshops in London. I've done about three, and I do meetups as well. So to the career workshop, I do more around like banking technology. So I bring like groups of like professionals that come to talk about the subject. Particularly for it that the young people that are looking to get into like this sector, like banking technology, just to really understand what it entails, to kind of work in this sector. Because I think many people go into things blindly. Same as motherhood, same as career. Everyone wants to be, oh, I want to be like a tester, or I want to be like, a trader and things like, but they don't really know what the job entails. So one of my vision is to actually bring experts in various fields to talk about their career, their journey, how they got there. And that's something that has helped, young people, moms, teenagers. Like it's not really restricted to just moms in terms of the career workshops I host. So that's one thing I do. That's an annual event I host in London. And then the other thing I do moms meetup as well. So we do like a social night where, so far we've met some like a nice bar in maybe Canary Wharf or somewhere central where we just, catch up, like just have drinks, have food and, just, get to like expand your network or just to unwind because I think it's something we don't do enough. And so that's one other aspect. And then as part of my book launch, I've had two events so far where we have like an evening of, women, everyone dresses up, we come together. We have also speakers as well. We have a nice dinner. We just really talk about like pressing topics. So one thing that is a pressing topic is really around like how women interact with each other in terms of women either supporting each other or the women that kind of already get into like the senior leadership position, how they're helping those behind them. Because that was something that was quite big on the last, event I had for my book launch a few weeks
Okay.
ago. And it's very clear that it's an area we need to really focus on. So I feel at every point in time, there'll be that big topic that I feel like, we need to like zoom in and shed more light on and bring in like, a group of particularly with the ethnic minorities together because we don't really tend to have that space where we can kind of rub minds and kind of hear what our thoughts are on this particular subject. So that's what I do through those like nights, evening events for moms as well, and moms to be and future moms, not just mom. So my event is not just for moms. So my events are for either aspiring moms or, all my events are for women in general. Because what I find is most of these topics are even for those that just have, nieces or nephews or neighbors with kids, are things that they probably don't realize. Like you may not realize your neighbor might be going through depression. But when you come to an event or you read my book, you'll be like, wow, so that lady didn't say hello to me like 3 days in a row. She could actually be going through depression, you see? So it's just little things that I feel like I can't really box like just moms. I think the next step is to even get the men involved. That's kind of like the next phase for me going forward.
I think that's actually, you know what, all your events are very crucial and required. And I think the fact that
Thank you.
we need to start looking at, having men in the room and having those conversations as well.
Yes, exactly. Because I feel we have so many like women's networking events, like young ladies, young women. But I think what will actually help going forward is actually get like everyone into the room. Because I went to Lagos for the first time in 7 years in August, and I had my book launch in Lagos, and there were lots of men as well. My husband was there, was one of the speakers. My brother-in-law, like lots of other guys were there. And for someone like my husband, when even, read, my manuscripts, and because I have insight, like I got contribution from other career women, other multi-passionate women into the book. And when you read things like, oh, so it's actually normal for a woman to go into the bathroom to cry just from like being overwhelmed or being guilty. So I was actually able to see that actually, so you're not, I think you're not, it's not just you that is crazy then. So it's just little things like that, like just to get them to kind of listen to the narrative, like to kind of see where you're coming from. Because
Right.
the thing with men is when you're trying to talk about the same subject, they may not realize it's something that can be a bit universal as well. That it's not just you. It's not just you that, you feel overwhelmed with, juggling two kids and trying to keep your home in order. But when they hear that it's kind of the normal narrative, they kind of tend to appreciate you more. And I'll say since I wrote this book, my husband actually, I must say, appreciates me more. And which is why today when I said to him, like, you need to watch the kid, like, I was happy to do that. Like, I was happy to, set up the space for me to be productive. Because he now understand that this is important. And he has 6 sisters as well that go, some just had kids, some, have older kids. And is able to kind of empathize with our situation that, is something women go through. Like, our emotions change, our body changes. Like sometimes we can even be a bit irrational. And it's just something that they have to be a bit more understanding in terms of if you have a partner and even in the workplace, they have to kind of make room. Like men don't have periods today. They don't have periods. They don't have like mood swings. Like you don't have period where you have like a breakout all over your face and you don't feel like going into the office the next day. Not really. Men don't have that. So I feel like it's not like we're asking for women to be given like an easy pass, but just to have like that conscious understanding and appreciation that it's just kind of different for women, and you have to be a bit more supportive of all the things that makes us into this woman that everyone is meant to be proud of.
And it's really interesting how you talk about the impact of the book is not just on the women in your lives, is actually the impact on the men in your life as well.
Yes,
And
exactly.
how that they're able to look past and go, hey, you know what? I need to be more. I need to be more active. I need to take a more active approach.
I need to be more sensitive. And that's
Yes.
one thing as well. Because many, like, I've had friends where the husband would say to them, like, it's just one baby. How hard is it to look after like a baby? Like, my mom had 7 children and she never complained. So those are things that you hear men say. But when a man picks a book like this or they go to an event where they hear that, actually, I have one child or I don't even have kids. Like I have a friend of mine, she's not even married, no kids, but she's on the plane every other week and she's always so overwhelmed and stressed out. So it's not even just about being a mom. Like you can be at a stage in your life, in a season where your work might be so demanding that you just don't have any time for your physical or mental well-being. That might just mean you might lose it. So people just have to be more conscious that regardless of whether of your circumstance, everyone's circumstance is peculiar to them, and people just have to respect and stop the judgment, of people's plight. Really, I think that's one thing that's really key. Like for people to be a bit more sensitive of kind of how like things you say to people. Because I remember one of my early posts was like things that people's like funny pregnancy comment. Like people can say funny things to you that, oh, you've gained so much weight. And you say that, and that woman is just there for the next 3 months, like just second guessing herself, feeling like horrible with her body. She's already carrying this baby, or, it could even be someone that doesn't have kids. Like, there's some things you just don't say to people, you see. So it's just being sensitive to people around you. I think is really key.
You know what? I think you need to say that again, especially to our Nigerian folk. You have added weight is not a greeting. Stop saying that to people. Just, I think we need to learn to not say that to others. Because I remember I went to Nigeria after so many years. Friends from high school I've not seen in like 10, 20 years. Oh my God, you are so fat. I'm like, oh, and hello to you
so
too.
Rude. Like, that's not a way of, it's not a form of, those are things we need to be saying clearly. Like, that's not the way to greet people. You don't actually, like, people's weight is not a subject that is up for discussion, really. Like, just leave people on their weight, right?
I was like, okay. And it wasn't just one person. It was like 3-4 different people. And I remember saying, you do remember when I left Nigeria as a teenager, I was probably a size 8 and had no body. I was
skinny.
flat. I looked like a hungry child.
10 years later, like, but that would be actually funny if you come back like after 10 odd years and you're still exactly that same person. Like, I would be more worried with that, right?
I basically grew into the rest of my body and discovered curves, but that aside, I think jokes aside, we are touching on something very important where we need to understand that how we say things can have an impact on others.
Yes. I think it's a really key message, which is where I'll encourage, even dads, like moms or, moms to be, or, get even men to read this book. Like, when they read some of the insights and stories from the other women, like how they've struggled with their career, how they came back into the workplace after having kids and they just couldn't do the job anymore, and they had to like either step down, take a different role, or some even had to start a business. Like, there's one of the moms that I interviewed. She's a lawyer. She studied at Cambridge. She has 5 kids, and she had to leave her career for now. Like, she's a businesswoman at the moment, because she was unable to find a flexible job that could enable her be a mom, a parent to her 5 children. So it's things like that I feel like people should be. So, like, someone will not see and be like, oh, what do you do? And she's like, I'm a stay-at-home mom, and she's looked down upon. You see, this someone that has a degree from Cambridge, like a law degree, like that cannot be taken away from her, right? Even though if for the last 3 years she hasn't held like a proper like job, you see. So it's those little things that I feel like people need to really understand, that you can't just tell someone, oh, so that means because you're a stay-at-home mom, it just means you've wasted your life, or because you decide to be work full-time, it means you're a bad mom as well. So
exactly,
the two sides are extreme. Or if you decide not to even have children, like I have colleagues that they actually decide not to have children, and that's their wishes. And I think we have to just respect everyone's paths. That's really key.
And that's so important. So, going back to your book, you talk about how mentoring helps you feel less alone with what you're going through. So, when you think of mentoring, how important is it for Black women to actually find mentors to support them through their journey?
I think mentoring is something that for me, that's like a core of how I'm able to get to where I am today. I've always had career mentors, and even after I had, I got married, I had like a marriage mentor, my pastors in church. They spent time with us. We did like a 12 weeks marriage counseling, and they still mentor us in terms of marriage. And I do have like a personal mentor as well. This really awesome lady. She's got 3 kids. She's got twins. She's like, 20 years into her career. So having people like that can actually, make you kind of put things in perspective for you. So when you feel like you're struggling or you're overwhelmed, they're able to make you look at the bigger picture. So I think it's key for Black women in particular to really have role models, and not just people that you just see like on maybe social media or people that you don't have access to. Like, it's key to have someone you can relate to, someone you can speak to, someone that you can phone up to be like, okay, I'm dealing with this particular struggle. I'm trying to negotiate a pay rise. Like, I just feel like I'm being underpaid. Like, how do I go about it? And I've had conversations like that with my mentor, and that's helped me, get to the next level. So it's so important. I think Black women, I think we many women, we kind of think that there's an absence of role models, at that next level. And it's something I struggle with, because there are very few kind of women that ticks that box for me in terms of my values and my aspirations. Because I've had, a mentor where either some are the extreme ones where they've got 3 kids, they've got like 2 full-time nannies, the kids are just always with the nanny like 247, and they're in the office till 11 p.m. Like, a really senior, like, female director or managing director. So someone like that, she's doing great in her career, but I won't necessarily call her my role model. So I think what happens is, because women at that level that are meant to be role models, they believe that they have to either act like men, they have to be tough, they have to be seen as, always being there. So many of them, the ones that do have like family, I always feel like they kind of sacrifice their family a bit too much. That's just from my personal experience. I might be wrong, but that's just what I've seen so far. But there are very few like female leaders and role model that will be like, okay, this is a sensible woman. Like, she's been authentic. Like, for me, my approach is really a nurturing approach. Like, my team members, I always nurture them. I'm not an aggressive person. Right. And that's one thing that it took me a while to get my bosses to actually recognize that part of me. Because when I look at my performance review, they'll be saying things like, oh, leadership skills, you need to be more assertive and things like that. You need to be more forceful. But one day I said to my boss that I'm not a forceful person. And I cannot, like, if that's what you expect from me, then maybe this, part is not for me, because my approach is just more kind of win-win, in the sense that, it's give and take. Like, if my team members, I have to really find out what their strengths are. I cannot kind of force them to do what, they don't think they should be doing. Mm-hmm. Like, that is not my approach, right? But if that's what you want me to do in this job, then that is not for me. So you have to get to the point where you kind of own who you are. You're authentic in your skin. But the problem is, most women at that level, they kind of almost lose themselves as well. Like, they're just trying to be like the boys or the men. And it just makes it harder for like the younger women like myself to relate to them, in the sense that they're like, okay, I don't want to be that kind of tough woman that doesn't smile, that just takes herself too seriously, that can't even let her head down and, like, have a glass of wine and dance in an office party. Like, I don't want to be that kind of woman, right? So I think the absence of role models is a big problem. But I think regardless, as much as there are not many, there are still role models out there, because I do have mentors, and they've helped me in one aspect or the other in my life. And I can't really overemphasize the importance of having a female, whether male. It's just key to have a mentor. It doesn't have to be a female. If you're in a male-dominated environment and the only example you have is a male, then approach them, go to them. My previous boss was one of my mentors as well. He's got 3 daughters. Amazing, amazing guy. Like, he just gets it. Like, I don't have to spell it. When I say to him, okay, it's my son's school play, then he'll just say, you know what, you don't have to even tell me. Don't even tell me. Just do what you need to do. And those are the kind of people I'd rather work with. And there's something one of my mentors told me. She was MD at our organization. I asked her the question, how do you deal with a difficult boss? And the answer she gave to me was like, I don't deal with a difficult boss. I leave them. I mean, that's quite brutal, but you need to get to a point where once you know what your value is, you've honed your craft, you're good at your job, they value your contribution, people know what your contribution is. You may not be one of those people that you're good at selling yourself or, networking with like all the really senior people, but your work speaks for itself. Yes. Once you get to that point, you should be able to be in a position to say, okay, this is how I want to work. Like, I want to work from home 2 days a week, or this is the kind of project I'd rather be working on. So I think we women, we really need to brush up on our skills as well. Because once you do that, you'll be able to have like more opportunities. You'll be able to be more selective in the sense that this is the kind of job I want to do. This is the kind of manager I don't want to work with. This is the kind of, this is the kind of people I don't want to have to deal with, because I know what my value is at the end of the day.
Okay, that's just very powerful. So yes, women need to be more selective with your skills and own your skills.
Yes. Very,
Okay.
very correct. And that's something I feel like, even as women of color, as much as we try to do the fluffy stuff, but still, it's still down to your core. Like if you're a doctor, you have to, if I was a doctor, I have to be the best surgeon out there if I was a surgeon. If my job, I work in investment banking, my focus would be, as a woman, I have to be the best at that job. Because if the only way to stand out is really down to your skills, your knowledge, and that's something I feel no one can actually take away from you. And that's why I tell young people, like when I mentor young people, I go to careers day. When it's down to your skill, like if you have all A's in your GCSE, you'll be the one selecting what university you want to go to, not the other way around, right? So
Yes.
you being good at what you do just opens doors for you that you don't have to be, going around trying to find someone to help you, or, what you need to do. If you're good at what you do, it just speaks for yourself, and you're able to, do what makes you happy when you're good at what you do. But when you're not good, that's when you have all this constant struggle. As much as life, there will always be struggles, but there are some things I feel like is kind of in your power that I feel like you can work on. Then the other struggles you can deal with, things like health issues, or like debt, or there are things that you can't control, right? But things you can control, I feel you can focus your time on making sure those things are done properly on your side. Like that's within your power to do those parts.
You know what, Folakemi, that's actually quite key. So we've come to that point in the show where we do our So Loud moment of the week, which is where you have to give a virtual shout out to someone, a person, a thing that has made you go, yeah, that deserves my respect.
Yes, I think that's so easy for me. I don't need to think too much about it. So there's an amazing lady. Her name is called Joe Maxwell. So she has this TV show on Fame and Vox Africa in the UK, where she just talks around all these, challenges and struggles of being, a Black woman. And she just had that season 2 premiere last night at Hilton Paddington, and she's just doing amazing. She was one of those that contributed to my book as well. She shared that insight because she's also a career woman, as well as being a talk show host, and she's a mom of 3 as well. She's a wife. So I think she just deserves all the accolades. So shout out to Joe Maxwell for just, being an inspirational woman, for being a great role model. Like, just keep going. We're here. We're supporting you. And yeah.
Awesome. So, Joe Max, were you at the event last night?
Yes, I was at the event. I actually didn't get up until 2 this morning as well.
Wait,
Because it was so...
what time did you get to the event? Because I was at the event last night.
Oh, really? So I probably got there probably around 8. We're a bit late because we had one of our other friends. Like she was our driver for the day, so it was like a pool ride. So we ended up getting there quite late, around 8. But we're there till the very end, like till the very end.
I left a bit early, around 9ish. I was wearing a red jacket.
Oh,
So
I mean, I just missed you. I wore a
probably.
black dress. Wow,
Oh,
it's such a small one,
oh
and we
my
missed each other.
my.
Yeah, which is why I need to find out what next event are you going to. That I'll be so we can hook up for
Definitely.
real.
But let's celebrate Jill Maxwell, because yes, she definitely deserves all the round of applause and celebrations that we're going to give her right now.
Yes. Yay!
So yes, we definitely need to give people like her the celebration that she deserves, because what she's doing is really, really powerful, and we need to have
Yes.
more women doing their thing at whatever level they're at. You know.
Yes.
So just
Yes. Absolutely.
coming back to you, and final few questions. With everything you do, being a mom, a wife, an author, you balance your the training you do and your day job. How do
Yes.
you manage to take care of yourself? What are your self-care practices?
Ah, I think for me, it's just I just find time for myself, Like there are little things I do, as I said, like I go on this, annual girls trip every year. That helps me. But on a day-to-day basis, I'm someone that I walk a lot. I just signed up for this 6 weeks yoga in my
Hmm.
workplace, starting on Monday,
Okay.
where it's for an hour with my few other friends. So I do. I'm a bit into fitness. I mean, I'm not saying I'm such a fit person. Like that's the caveat. But one other thing I do this 6K run at Battersea Park every year. I think I missed 2 years just around time I had before I had my younger son. But in the last pretty much 10 years, I always do this, 6K run every year. So it's things like that that keeps me quite active. And those are things that I actually do that I enjoy, that I feel like it's something I'm doing for me.
Hmm.
So it's just those little things like, my fitness. I make sure I eat a balanced diet. I have a really healthy salad mix for lunch. Like I try not to skip meals. So it's those little things that helps me. And just my faith in God. Like when I get over, every day, as part of my day to day, I set aside time for my, devotion, spending that time with God. And that really helps me, to be honest.
Okay. And you mentioned that, you do love reading. What is the book you are currently reading, and what was the last book you read?
So at the moment, there's this book I'm reading. It's called is a T.D. Jakes one, and it's called God's Leading Lady. So I'd read that book previously, but I think I'm at the point where, because I'm trying to, I just got to a point in my career where, I'm kind of changing my career path. I'm kind of going back into software development. I think you're the first person I'm saying this to as well. So I just feel like I'm at this point where I'm again heavily into the male environment, like because my previous role, we even had like some, program managers that were women, but my new role I'm going for now is a purely like men environment. So that book, I just had to read it, like so every day I'm reminding myself, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. So that book is, really helping me now. And then the other book that the one I finished recently is a book called Finishing Strong by I think it's Steve Farrar. It's another really good book. So
Okay.
it's not just about finishing. Like anyone can finish. Like you might run a marathon and finish after you know 10 hours and others finish 4 hours or whatever. But it's not just how long it took, it's about you finishing well, finishing strong with your values and everything in place, and even also enjoying the journey as well. So those are things that kind of ties into the theme for my book. So those are kind of the self personal development or like inspirational, motivational kind of books that I read that helps me on a day-to-day basis. But trust me, you don't want to see my shelf. I've got so many books, like so many. Like I'm just glancing now. I saw like there's this book I read. It's called Calm Parents, Happy Kids by Dr. Laura Markham. That's a good one for parenting.
Okay.
There's this other marriage one that I read as well a long time ago. It's called Marriage as God Intended by Selwyn Hughes. That's another really good book for marriage. So I just have so many books, and then I've got like my career books, like my development, Java development guide, and my XML guide, and business analysis. There's another one, exploring corporate strategy. So I read all kinds of books. So I have the one for personal development. I have the one for my career. So at every point in time, I'm always reading a career related book, like because every day is a constant growth, constant learning. I feel like as long as you're living, you just have to be a student. That's the only way, to be able to survive, this life. That's the way I see it.
I absolutely agree. So, what's next for you? What are your future projects?
So I think for me, I'll just, my blog is still going to continue. I'm trying to get, I have one or two like assistant that will kind of help me with the blog and other aspects. So I can kind of, because I also do coaching, like one-on-one coaching. I help people with like their CV because I work 4 days a week in my 9 to 5 job. So I have a day where I kind of set aside to like coaching people, help people with their CV, with interview preps and stuff like that. So I really, want to do that to really help people. Because one thing I do, I kind of help people for things like work experience, like the younger people for like internships and, graduate placement. So I think I really want to give, back to the younger folks. So I feel like I've done this one for the moms, and that's still there. It's on Amazon. Anyone can get a copy of the book. So many people have already gotten the book. But I think the next step is really around, helping the younger people, and then also things around like, parenting, like in this age we are now, with all the pressures that comes from, comparing yourself to other people and your children just having all this expectation of feeling entitled to things. Those are the, some areas I really want to, shed more light on as well. Okay. But yeah, I just have, many things in the pipeline. But yeah, we'll just taking it one day at a time with the grace of God.
Okay, awesome. How can people reach you?
So the best way to reach me is either through my website, peacocksandfly.com. There's a contact page there. So you can either send me a message there through the contact page or drop me an email at info@peacocksandfly.com. And then failing that, you can, go to my social media, my Instagram. I think I'm more active on my Instagram. My Instagram handle is called I'm Not Just a Mom. So if you send me a direct message, I'll probably respond within 24 to 48 hours. So those are the easiest way to reach me.
Awesome. Okay, so people, you know how to reach her. Hit up her social media and send her a message. So, Folakemi, I cannot thank you enough for being a guest on the show today.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you so much, Lily. I look forward to, doing more stuff together, meeting in person and just collaborating, in future as well.
I'm looking forward to that. In fact, that may happen sooner rather than later.
So excited already.
All right. So, folks, you have heard this interview. We have spent time, discovering the not just a mom, Folakemi. And this is a woman, and let me give her full title, Folakemi Sebiotimo. And she is a powerful woman, a tech STEM woman who is determined to have honest conversations about motherhood, about life, and about the practical steps that we can take on a day-to-day to actually grow ourselves. So, all I can say is it's a wrap, folks. Join us same time, same place next week. All right, and that's it. We're done.
You've been listening to the Shine Out Loud Show. If you want to connect with us or let us know what you thought of today's show, be sure to follow us on Twitter @Shine Out Show.